My name is Ash. I'm a third year in the Applied Language and Translation Studies course. Just a heads up, I'm going to be referring to it as alt at the presentation because that's what we call it. The course code in DCU is just alts. Do you want to take a picture of this first slide as well because it has a CAO code and it also has our program chair's email. So if you have any questions for her, you can email that to her there. So take a picture of that one just to have at the beginning would be handy. And kind of a short summary of the degree and how it works, that it's a level 8 honors degree, like most of the degrees in DCU. It's a 3 or 4 year program. Regardless of whether you do 3 or 4 years, you still graduate with a level 8 honors degree at the end. If you choose to carry on and complete your fourth year, you can spend a year studying abroad or spend a year on intra work placement. This program is very dynamic and interdisciplinary. Interdisciplinary just means that you cover lots of different subject matters and topics throughout the program. And we're also lucky enough to have translators working part-time within the school, within the program, so we know what all the latest trends are with regards to translation, that we can keep up with them properly. So a question many of you are asking, I'm sure, is why alts, why this degree? To put it simply, it just trains us to be language professionals and translators in an ever-growing and globalized world. It's a really handy degree for people that have really enjoyed language learning and also want to put that language learning kind of in a professional context and use it properly. And language and intercultural skills really do drive the world and keep us moving forward. So it's really, really valuable to have at the moment. What will you achieve as part of the Alts degree? You will reach a high level of proficiency in 2 languages. This degree also gives you opportunity to do kind of unique combinations like Japanese and German or Chinese and Spanish. I myself am doing French and German, but there are many students doing maybe just 2 European or a European language with Japanese or Chinese, and they're all very valuable degrees to have. And like I was mentioning before, within DCU, you have the option to spend a full year studying abroad or a full year on work placement. And what's particularly unique about this program is that you get to specialize in applied languages and translation. The way I describe it to anyone thinking about doing it is there is a pretty significant difference between doing this ALTS degree or just a Bachelor of Arts Joint Honours language program. Within a joint honors program, you're doing one half, say, for example, for me, French and German, you'd be taking one half French, one half German. While within the ALTS degree, it's kind of split into thirds, one third, two-thirds being each of your languages, and then another third being translation studies, subtitling, computer-aided translation. And that third aspect is what's really valuable and specifically unique to DCU. And something that's quite unique about DCU as well is that we are ranked second within translation programs in the world and rank higher than Ivy Leagues like Stanford and Berkeley, which I think is just goes to show how strong this department within DCU is. And a question I think lots of people have, and I'm sure lots of parents have, and we always get asked at open days if whether or not translation is still viable and if it's protected against development of technology and things like that. And the one thing I would say is that there are more translators being hired at the moment in the world than there ever has been before. Which I think just proves that it is still an extremely valuable degree. And although machine translation, AI translation is improving, it's not improving at a rate quick enough for people to be concerned about this industry disappearing anytime soon. And to just sort of describe the work of translators and where we fit into like this business model and um, market growth and stuff like that is step one, say, for example, a company in this case, Germany develops a product and then they sell that product in Germany in that country just through German, and then suddenly market quota is reached and they can't possibly make any more money by just being in Germany. So what do they want to do? They want to globalize. And globalize means translation. You need to hire lots of translators to make sure that this product is can work in all these different countries and can be sold in all these different places. And something else that comes with translation as well, which probably wouldn't have considered, is localization, which you see a lot in video games and computer games. So Maybe an example we could use for this is this German company want to sell their product in the US, in Ireland, and in Australia. These are three English speaking countries, but we all speak very different types of English. So that means you're going to have not only translate it, but then also localize it to an Irish audience. So that means getting rid of maybe the Zs you've used. And then for an Australian audience, it means maybe changing the phrase you had. And it's that cultural knowledge that translators are really valuable for because a computer is not going to understand that and is not going to be able to appropriately change it to be relevant to each of these different locales and groups. And some of the skills you will develop as part of the IELTS degree, some of them are fairly general, like communication, critical thinking and stuff like that. Well, then what are some particularly unique ones would of course be multilingualism and intercultural skills, which are really, really valuable, and companies are really looking for people that have these kind of skills in their back pocket. And then again, digital literacy. Throughout second and third year, you take modules that use different. So we have CAT tools, which are computer aided translation. So in second year, you have a module where we learn how to use all these different tools and the positives and negatives and a translation memory versus machine translation. And then in third year, we just did a module last semester. Module just means like subject or topic that you have to take is subtitling, where we have lots of different subtitling tools with translation aspects, and it's having proficiency in these types of software that is really valuable, and just having that already done before your undergrad is finished makes you extremely valuable to employers. And again, talking about employment and the language industry, Dublin is really seen as like a European Silicon Valley with so many different options and places for you to work in. And the same with translation industries. Big ones at the moment will be legal and interpreting. Interpreting and translation sort of come hand in hand. Translation is just writing stuff down. Interpreting is saying it out loud. And then, of course, like I was saying before, you have media content. A big thing would be games localization. So making sure games created in all these different countries are made to match specific locales, which could mean maybe changing an object and, of course, changing the text and translating everything. And then finally, you have international orgs like the EU and the UN. If you want to look into WIPO and WTO, there are other international organizations that just have lots of things written in different languages. So there's a huge, huge demand for translators. And again, translators native English, because English is so popular, I think people can be a bit worried about whether or not a degree is valuable because maybe there's people from other countries who speak English, but having native English plus two other languages is what companies really need and are really looking out for the moment. Yeah, so to go back to the beginning and the structure of an alt degree, like many DCU degrees, you have 3 years in a row on campus, and then you can choose in your fourth year to go abroad or do work placement, or again, you can just graduate at year three. And either of those pathways means that you graduate with a full level A honors degree. So it's just up to the individual what they would like to do. In year one of alts, you study two foreign languages ranging from French, German, Spanish, Japanese, and Chinese. One thing I will say, this is something we often get asked, is that you do have to take one European language. So you have to carry on your leaving cert, which has to be either French, German, or Spanish. And then you can choose to take on Japanese or Chinese as a second one from beginner level. Although there are people that do leaving cert Japanese or Chinese, the level you have at the end of your leaving cert does not match the level of a European language, so they can't offer like an advanced Japanese or Chinese class. So you would unfortunately have to have French, German, or Spanish at a H4 level to come in, just to clear that up. And so we have those language classes, of course, and then we have translation classes, and then we have classes on linguistics, culture, and literature. So you would have translation for literature in both languages, and then linguistics is obviously all the theory ones are done through English to make sure everyone is on the same page and everyone understands. And then in year two, you delve more into your two languages that you're learning. And then that's when you sort of move into more technical stuff. So you have computer aided translation, translation memory, machine translation, how all these tools are used, when they can and can't be used, and how they're developing at the moment. You also have textual studies and terminology, and then you have some very different ones for literature and film. And then year three, the final year on campus, there's far more variety of what you can do. For year three, you can also choose to just do one language. So I've chosen to keep on both French and German, but if you like, you can just narrow it down to one of the ones you're doing. And you have more specialized translation classes like economic translation or machine translation, or not machine, technical translation, things like that. And then you have multimedia, which I was discussing earlier, like dubbing and subtitling and all those different softwares. You have more in-depth translation theory, and you can also take languages about professional English and interpreting. And then every student has to do a dissertation. I'm sure you've heard that word a lot throughout many talks you've been to and figuring out what university you want to go to. Dissertation just means a big long essay with lots of research, and you have a lecturer who specializes in the field that you're writing about, who is going to help you throughout that. And then in year four, if you choose to take it, like I was already saying, you can study abroad in lots of different countries or choose to do a work placement. And I'm going to be talking about that year four aspect for a little bit now. These are all our partner countries. You can do your study abroad in for the year. It does have to be a year as well. I'll just make that clear. There are so many benefits of studying abroad. The main one being for all students and for any language student is the language level really, really improves because, well, I'm hoping to go to Germany next year because you're just fully immersed in that language 24/7. You're attending lectures in German, you're going to social events in German, you're making German friends and all this sort of stuff. And it's really, really valuable from that perspective. And you also learn a lot about how different universities work because universities function very differently in each country you're in. You get a really valuable intercultural and vast knowledge coming from that. And there's also a lot to be said for the personal development. Anyone I've known who's done theirs has come out the other end of it being really glad they've done it because it can be quite daunting to move away, especially for a year. And for some of our students, they're going to a different continent, but anyone who's gone has been really thankful for it. And then it looks very strong on a CV to have taken the step and decided to go away for that extra year. And if you choose to not do study abroad and would like to do work placement instead, it allows you to earn university credits while also experiencing the world of work. And any intra placement you get in this degree is paid. Intra requires them to be paid. And allows you to apply your knowledge you developed over the past 3 years to a practical work setting. And something as well that any placement you'll get throughout your final year in DCU is done through the inter office. So it's their job. You have to find it, but it's their job. They're not to help you. So they kind of oversee it all and they help you with your CV and the interview process and just like how to settle into these workplaces. Um, and something else to add which is just very broadly about the ALTS experience within DCU is that we are part of the School of Applied Language and Intercultural Studies. DCU has lots of faculties separated by our teaching, engineering, science, etc. And we're in the humanities faculty, and within humanities, we're in this school, which we call SALIS for short. Within SALIS, there's a few other undergrads and postgrads courses, and something really handy about being in Salis is that we have the Lingua Culture Space, which is just it's a room on the first floor of the arts building that Salis runs, and they run lots of different events throughout the year, like language exchange, coffee mornings, like conversation classes, board game nights, movie nights, and things like that that kind of cater to each language within the school and with like for all the students coming from other places on study abroad in the year. And it's really handy for the study abroad students to kind of make friends from their home country and bond over that, while also for us it means we get to have a chat with native speakers and meet other people that are in our degree or similar degrees. And Salis also run as part of the Irish Refugee Integration Network. So they do many things, but something that they do that we see is their English classes. So they run volunteer-based free English classes for refugees that have recently come into the country, and we're able to volunteer with them. Obviously, we're not doing a chunk of the teaching because we're not qualified yet, but excuse me, we can like help out in those classes, and then the people often value speaking to native speakers and stuff like that. So it's a nice thing to do, and it's also really handy for us to kind of watch these classes be taught, and we can even learn something from them ourselves. And just kind of end on a positive note. If you really enjoy language learning and want to use it in a practical setting and spend time abroad, I would really, really recommend this degree. I really enjoy it. I'm really glad I picked it. I thought it really suited what I want to do, and the option to take translation modules and being able to study abroad or do placement really kind of worked for me, and I'm really glad I picked it. Thank you so much for listening. If you missed it at the beginning, you can take a picture of this page here to have the CAO code and also our program chair's email, Aparajita. She's lovely. If you have any questions, you can shoot her an email and she'll happily get back to you. And yeah, does anyone maybe have any questions for me? You can just shoot them in the chat there and I'll see them. Yeah, Eve. So it's kind of a mix within first year and second year. You have to do like two modules on the two languages you're studying. And like in first year, it was like literature and history. So you learn about how those two kind of interact with each other. Like I did a German module, and obviously we watched films and read a book relevant to the war. So we understand that part of German history. And then in second year, it's similar enough. You do one on literature and film in both modules. And then in third year, you can choose. So I didn't choose them, but there's um, first semester modules on literature in both languages that you pick. So you have to do it for a bit in first and second year. And then if you really enjoy it, you can do a lot of it in third year. If you don't like it that much, you can step back from it. So there's sort of a mix there. If you want to have a look at the direct module names, you can go onto the sort of ALTS program part of DC website, and you can see the list of modules that we can choose from, so you have an idea of how many there is there. Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much for listening. Hope that was helpful. Again, you can always email Aparajita, and maybe I'll see some of you next year. Thanks, guys.